Anybody got an idea? You know, some people think they should have this big room for negotiating and the sellers are way here and the buyers should be way down here and they gotta do all this stuff and it might not come together. What's the benefit of having the buyer come right up to the seller's price if the property's priced right? What's the benefit?
They take your
They'll
offer
get it.
seriously.
It'll save time.
Yeah.
So make a note of that, okay? So, and you might even have a saying. You have a saying here. Oh, I got another one here. Who didn't get one? Did you guys have one?
Yeah.
Here's another one. Want to give it to him? There you go. You can pass that on to somebody else after you register on the website, of course. And I have a poster that'll be sent to you as well, Peter, just like that one.
Okay.
So you can take those ones down, of course, and the other ones will show up beginning of the new year. Big posters. So, first of all, when you're writing an offer, so where are we right now when we're writing an offer? Where are we? Based on the training we've done so far, what I've taught, where are we right now?
Office.
You're in your office. Or you're at their house. What have you done already? Like this is a buyer that you're writing an offer for. What have you done already? You did the showings.
Pre-approval.
How many, we'll go backwards. So pre-approval is all way back a bit here. But what was the last thing you did before you wrote an offer? You did showings, yes?
Yes.
How many properties did they see?
Five.
Five, right? And what did we do before that? We were at the office doing the search. And what did we do before we did the search? We got them to sign the buyer agreement. And what did we get them to do before the buyer agreement or the appointment? You got them pre-approved.
Yeah.
What did we do before that? We closed on the phone.
Change.
Yeah, what did we do before that? Well, we might have been cold calling or maybe door knocking and we called them later, or we got the lead into our inbox through a pay-per-click or a social media lead or an internet lead, website lead or whatever, right? So I just went backwards. So remember where you're at. So go forward now, right? You got the lead, the conversion, pre-approval, the appointment, the agreements in place, the search done, the showing set up, then you go did the showings, and then you said, let's go back to the office. So if you did your last showing and they said there's none of these that we're interested in, let's talk tomorrow, what would you have done? Do you remember? That was another way of saying the parking lot bailout technique from last week. What's your main objective after the showings? To get back to the office. You already told them we're returning to the office, right? So even if they don't want to write anything, you're still returning to the office. Why? Because you can do another search and set up 5 more showings for tomorrow or the next night. If they won't cooperate with you, that's a huge red flag. You know, like, oh, we're just going to go home and we'll think about it. We'll get back to you later, Dwayne. And you're like, well, let's just head into the office and let's just eliminate the ones you're not interested in, do a quick search and get some more for the next time. And if they start saying, I don't know, and I just need you to know that that's a sign that you may have some tough ones to work with. Just depends, right? Or let's go back to your place, I'll come with you and we'll go and do another search. But for the ones that said, yeah, we really like this one here, right? Preferably, they bring that up at the office, because you said after the showings, we'll just head back to the office, and you spread out the highlight sheets. They said, we're not interested in these. So you get rid of those ones. Now they're interested in this one. And according to the 8-step process, they find one they're interested in. What do? You remember what step 5 was? Step 5 of your buyer process? Somebody's interested. You want to crunch some numbers together.
Cost sheet.
The buyer cost sheet. Always, always use the buyer cost sheet, or at least an app on your phone, to find out what their monthly payments are. Monthly payments. And it'd be it'd really feel awkward if you didn't know how to figure that out. So have you practiced so far, since we've been bringing it up the last few weeks? Yeah, make sure you're practicing with that. So somebody says, you know, it's listed at $500,000, and they saw 4 of the properties, and they picked the best one. Obviously, it's priced right. Either that or all 5 that you went and saw were all overpriced. But more than likely, if the other 4 helped them want this one, then this one's probably the best one, and it's priced right. Interesting, right? So you do buy a cost sheet at full list price first. Why? It helps you to put a deal together if they start understanding what they'd be paying at full price. So on $500,000, they might be paying $2,500 or something. You know, and they probably want you to write a little less to save a few dollars. And they might say, well, where should we start? And, well, where should they start, gang? If it's 500 and it's worth 500, and it's 4 days on the market, in any market, there's a chance this is going to go. what price should they write? What do you think?
Full
price.
Full price, you think? Yeah, it's possible. There's no other offers coming in though.
Oh.
Do they need to go full price?
No.
No, so we gotta figure out where where the line is, where the sellers go, no, that's, I'm not interested, or they won't counter, or if they counter, it's list price. So what's that number? Let's think here. If a buyer's offered $499 on a property that's worth $500 and it's priced right, even if it's new on the market, what are the chances of the seller accepting that offer?
High.
High chance. What about $498?
High.
$497?
High.
$496?
High.
$495, he's not even talking, he's just giving me a weird look. $496?
High.
What?
High.
Somebody's saying something I'm not familiar with.
I said high chance.
Oh, high chance, yeah, you
High
said
chance.
high, okay. $495, they'll accept it just like that?
Yeah.
No,
$494, I'm starting to hear some no's, yeah, $494?
Yeah.
$493?
Yeah.
They start, see, so at around $496 to $493, you hear no and counter.
Yeah,
On a property that's priced right.
right.
Now, if property's listed at $500, but it's only worth $490, then the number, that window drops,
Yeah.
right? It'd be like $488, $489, you know, that type of thing. So you get the idea here? So sometimes you say to your clients this, what does it say?
Sometimes you have to offer more to pay less.
Yeah. How much should we offer? And you do what I just said. Well, the clients, now I'm looking at this, been on the market for 4 days. And you did say it's the best one out of the bunch. We know they'll take 500. So the closer we are to that, the better chance of us saving a few dollars. So if we went $499, hey, they'd probably take it. $498, $497. But once we get down a little bit, like let me ask you, if that was you, if you were the seller, now remember, you gotta always try to get them to say it, as opposed to you saying it all the time. When you say it all the time, they eventually cross their arms and they're just like, they're not even listening to you. How many of you are having trouble with that? I know it took me years to get past that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Years to stop talking so much and get years for me to get them to start saying it instead of me. That's something that will take you to a whole new level. Like I went from 50 deals to 84 deals within 1 year just because I got them to say it more than me. And if you can't quite get that, you're going to have to figure it out someday. But if you say, you know, let me ask you, if you were the seller and, you know, you just got it on the market and it seems like it's priced right. If you got an offer at 500, you'd accept it probably, right? Oh yeah. What about 498? Yeah, I probably would. 496? Probably. 494. Now, if it's some buyer that's just saying low as they want because they just want to make you write a low ball offer, that's another thing. But at some point, they're going to say, yeah, I can see your point. You know, maybe we should come as close as we can. And I said, well, if you want to save $2,000 or $4,000, you could probably go at 496. They'd probably accept it, and we're done. And the only thing you have to worry about, I'll just tell you, sometimes when they accept the offer quick, then you feel like you should have came in lower. And you can't worry about that. You just have to be grateful for what you got. So I don't mind writing it at 496 if you want. But that conversation could go further, right? They could say, oh no, 490, they'll take 490. And you could just gracefully say to them, I just wanted to let you know I disagree. But writing at 490 still might work. There might be a counter at 496 and they might get it for 495. There might be a counter at 500. You can't tell them what's going to happen for sure. It's all guessing. Isn't that right? So remember that saying. Go ahead and say it to the person beside you, just so you get it out of your mouth at least once.
Sometimes you have to offer more to pay less.
Okay, and step 2. If you can't get them to put the best offer first, then ask an open-ended question. Like, why do you want to offer less than list price? Or if to make this maybe understand it easier, in brackets just put, why do you want to offer less than what it's worth? Okay, because I'm I'm trying to teach you that this listing is priced right. But in your mind, you may think that it's overpriced because the market's dropped lately, so you might change the wording. So why do you want to offer less than it's worth? And what might be some of the answers you get from people that say, what's one of the reasons somebody doesn't want to pay what it's worth? Give me a reason.
They want to save money.
They want what? Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
They want to save money.
They want to save money, okay. So they should basically they should go to a different price range.
No.
You know, they should go down to where they want to save money, right? You know, Because what she's saying is there's some people who don't want to pay what it's worth. And what's another reason? You don't know? Then I'll just give you the answer, okay? Some people will say, I don't want to offer what it's worth because I don't believe it's worth it. You might, but they might not, right? And the other one was what did we say? They want to offer less than it's worth. So you have a buyer that's saying, I don't want to pay what it's worth. That could be an issue. Now there is a certain type of buyer that always says that. I don't recommend working with them all the time, unless you do it a certain way, and I'll tell you in a second. But what's a certain type of buyer that always wants to pay less than it's worth?
Investors.
Investors, all right? Everybody knows that, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, an investor will say, I know it's worth 500, but I want to get it for 450, 475. I'll make a few bucks off the purchase, and then we're going to, flip it, or we're going to put a renter in it, and whatever, okay? But as a realtor, it's hard to work for those kind of buyers all the time. You're not going to do a lot of deals. So an investor program, the way I did it, if you guys want to take a few notes on the blank page to the left, a few notes on how to work with an investor. So one of two ways. One way is if the investor says, I'm just working with you and I'll sign buyer agency. And I won't work with any other realtors. That never happens. Hardly any investors do that. They want to have a whole bunch of realtors helping them with their stuff. Okay? So what I did was my investor program was where I told them that they could tell me their criteria, I'll look for what they want, and once it's listed, I will email them a highlight sheet. So everyone's got that?
Can you say it again?
That's really important.
Can you say it one more time?
Yeah, sure. So I'd say if you don't want to sign buyer agency, then give me your criteria. I'll go and start looking for the property. Once I've listed it, I'll send you a highlight sheet. Okay? Did I say once I found it, I would send you the info?
No.
Once you what?
Listed it.
Listed it. And you just let them know right up front. Well, I want you to call me before you list it. Well, what I'll do, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll list it. I'll get the listing documents signed. And just before I broker load it, I'll let you know that you can, I'll tell you about it. So I did that one time. I ended up having a house that, it ended up being condemned. It was good lot value. And I got back to the office and I had 10 investors that every time I got a listing, I just emailed it to them. And this one was lot value, so I thought I better give them a heads up. And it was a few years ago, so the smaller lot was 200 grand. They had to tear down the house and pay for asbestos removal and stuff too, but 200 grand was still pretty good. And so I emailed about 10 investors that says, lot value, great for infill, in Glenwood, whatever. And I had one guy call me right away and he says, you still have it available? I said, yeah, I haven't even broker loaded it yet. He said, oh, I want it. I said, come in the office. So he come racing in. We sat down. I said, let's write the offer, right? I was going to double end it. He said one thing. He says, do you think I can get it less than 200? I said, I'm not writing it under 200. I'm telling you right now, if you want it, I'll write it at 200. Otherwise, I'm putting it on the market because I got to take care of my clients. So I go, oh, right, he says. So I double ended it, right? That was it. I still put it on the market, So, anyways, where was I here? So if somebody says, we don't want to offer, we want to offer less because we don't think it's worth it. That's easy to handle. Well, how do we show somebody that it's worth it? Well, we can talk about the properties that they turned down that showed this place was the best one, and we can even pull up some other comparables. Isn't that right, gang?
Yes.
So you might ask them, say, if I can prove you that this house is worth every penny, would you offer full price or close to it? You don't have to waste. Close, I said.
Okay.
Close to it.
Pretty close.
So, if yes, pull out the comparables. All right, gang? Pull out the comparables. Now, let's pretend that you pull out the comparables and there's sales that back up the price. And there's also the ones they looked at prove that this was the best one. Now, you need to take a little bit of control too. You can't, I'm talking about these lowball offers. Don't you be the one encouraging that stuff. Can you make sure you get away from that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like when you first got into real estate, if somebody says, if you find me a deal, I'll buy it. Did you say, okay, I'll go look for it? And you did, and you started looking for something that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't ever do that again, right? And if somebody does come up to you and says, If you find me a deal, I'll buy it. Can you start looking? Just say, hey, if I find a deal, I'm buying it. That's what I want you to say. Okay? Don't put up with any of that stuff. It will be, mark my words, if you do put up with it, you'll hear me in your head about a year from now saying what I just said now, and you'll go, I should have just listened to him the first time I heard it. First time I heard it. I should have just stayed away from that. Just have this little investment program. If some guy wants to give you a retainer and hire your services, and you're going to look for something specific, and that way that if you find it and it's not listed, he still has paid you, that's one thing. Or put it on the market first and then let all your investors know. That way, okay? Don't do it the way they want you to. You know the way they want you to. They don't want to commit to you at all, and they want you to tell you when they found it, and then they're just going to pull title on their own and go see the seller behind your back, and you're out of the loop. Has anybody ever had that happen to them?
Yes.
Yeah, I did everything wrong that first year. So, you know, here's an example. In a small community, I was driving around with an investor. I'd already sold him a couple walk-up apartments. And even he wouldn't sign the buyer agreement, but we were friends. And because I'd sold him a couple of previous walk-up apartments, we had lunch or something. And he said, hey, can we go for a drive into this neighborhood? I said, sure. So it wasn't that bad what I was doing because we were just actually having lunch and then we just drove. But it was borderline. Does that make sense? Because I was almost, you know. And he's pointing at these two walk-up apartments. They were 12-unit apartments. And back then, most of the walk-up apartments had one title for the whole building. Everybody knows what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he said, can you see if the people that own that building will sell it? Because then he was going to strata title, which means get title for each unit and then sell them off individually, create a condo board and stuff, condo association. I said, sure. So I pulled title and I found the name and the number of the person that owns the building. Now I was trained already, so it's not that I'm special, I was trained. Only thing special about me back then, I was committed to doing it the right way. So, what would most realtors do when they phoned that owner of that building? What do you think they would do? Now, you have to answer that question based on imagining not knowing what I just said.
Say that.
What do you think most of them would do? They'd say, I have a buyer.
I have a buyer.
Oh, would you sell the place? They say, yeah. And then what would they do? Try to get an offer maybe? Right? And that's not what I teach, right? What do I teach? Get the what? Get the listing.
Yeah.
So I called the guy, and you know, when you get really good and experienced, you start to ask some of the questions a little bit of a different way to make your job easier. So I'll just tell you what I did, but it was similar to what I teach. But being experienced, I was able to speed things up. But I says, this is Dwayne with ABC. I asked for the guy's name. It turned out he was a lawyer downtown. And I said, Richard was his name. Is Richard there? Yes, Richard. And hi, this is Dwayne with ABC. I was just calling to see if you'd be interested in selling your walk-up apartment in Mayfield. And his reaction was, oh, I've never been asked that for a long time. He says, that's been in the family for about 40 years. He says, yeah, I guess. I said, well, how much do you want? That just came out. And it was a long time ago, so it was like $50,000 a door. Now it'd be like $200,000, something like that, $250,000. So he said, I want, $600,000, which would be about $2.5–3 million now, okay? And I said, great, well, I have a buyer. I says, but why don't we do this? I'll set aside some time where I can come by and we can go over how to put your property on the market. And then I'll let you know what I have from my buyer, and then if it works out great, if it doesn't, at least we still have it on the market and we can find somebody else. Sounds good? He goes, yeah, no problem. So I said the right things, and he said, yeah. Half the realtors wouldn't say that because they'd think they'd say no, isn't that right? Mm-hmm. They want to do the old, let's put the deal, just this one thing, just one buyer.
Yeah.
He says, yeah. I said, so how much you want again? He said, 600, which now would be about 3 million. And I said, and he said, anything over that you can have. People say that sometimes, and I knew it was a good price anyway, so I went, okay. And I wanted, what are my commissions? For me, what do I want?
3.5, 1.5.
6%.
6%.
So this was about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit more, because it was just as I was finishing up. So at 600,000, what are the commissions that I asked for?
36,000.
Yeah, so I went to my friend, and I says, he'll sell it for 336. That includes my commissions. He went, good, sold. I said, okay, let's write it up. So we wrote it up at 336, at 636. I got the listing agreement in place. I listed it at 636. This is what you're supposed to do, yes?
Yes.
And I go over there, I went on the appointment, I told them, here's the listing agreement, I have an offer on it already, but let's do the listing thing first. And he said, yeah, that's no problem. Most realtors would say they wouldn't cooperate. He cooperated like nothing. He just followed my lead. Trust, I guess, right? So I said, let's list it at 636 at 6% commissions. 6%. What province are we talking about?
Alberta.
Edmonton,
Edmonton's a city.
Alberta.
Alberta is a province, yes. And it's 6%, okay? So I've done it many times. Any of you done it yet?
When was that? 15 years ago.
A couple of years ago, yeah. Any of you done it yet? 6%? Any of you gonna do it?
Yes.
Try, yeah.
Yeah. Any of you gonna do 7?
Yes.
Any of you? What's the highest commission you've ever done right now? Anybody's done 6 yet?
I think
Okay, have you done 7 and 5, let's say?
No.
Have you done 8 and 4?
Yeah.
Good, who's done 8 and 4? Have you done 10? I did a 10 once, 10 straight across. That's not my highest though. What do you think my highest was?
15.
20%.
Whoa.
Yeah, you know, it depends what the property is, land, mobile, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, a lot of people don't even try, let alone think to do it. Or if they do think of it, they think it can't do it.
Yeah.
So anyways, I got the 6%, got the listing, pulled out the offer to purchase, it was list price, he accepted it, great, he's all happy. I put it on the market, and we had conditions to be removed in 30 days. While it was on the market, I got some other buyers, I had other people that wanted to see it, that's fine, but still 30 days before conditions got removed. It almost fell apart, and we had to extend the conditions another 30 days. Eventually, I sold it for full list price and got 6% commissions. So it can be done, yes?
Yes.
So when you want to get people to write an offer, you want to get the best offer first, as we said. And if they won't offer the best offer first and something that's reasonable, find out why. Once you find out why, if it's just they don't think it's worth it, then you just have to prove it. Once you prove it, great. If you can't prove it, let's say you still prove it, but they just don't want to, then what I do is call it reducing to the ridiculous. So 500,000 just an easy number to use. I know lots of properties are worth way more in a lot of different areas that I teach, but I'm just saying 500 is a number. And let's say it's worth 500, but they only want to offer 480. Are you going to write 480? Well, after trying everything, you might say no, you might say yes. Okay, it's up to you. If you did write it at 480, man, first thing I would do before I wrote it is I would do 2 buyer cost sheets. So make a note of that. One buyer cost sheet was done at full list price already, yes? I would do another buyer cost sheet at what? What price?
480.
480. Then what I would do is I'd see that the monthly payments at 5%ish is $2,500 at 500. So write that down somewhere. And at 480 at 5%, the payments would be $2,400. And you do the subtraction. What's the difference between $2,500 and $2,400? $100 every what?
Monthly?
Month. And then make a note of this. Divide that by 30 days. And do the math. Tell me what it is.
80 and 83.33.
So 100 divided by 30 days is what?
80 and then 83.33 cents.
Yeah, it's actually $3 and something, right?
33.
Is that, I heard you say 80 something.
33 cents. So $3.33 difference.
Oh, I thought you said 83.
I did. 83.
It's not
$83.33.
It's not 83.
Yeah.
Divided by 30.
Huh?
It's a 3 something.
It's $3, not $83.
No. I'm saying it's $80 and $83.33. The difference is $3.33 though.
Oh, that's, yeah, so per day it's $3 and what?
Yeah.
33 cents.
Am I missing something? Maybe I just can't hear him right. So when you do the math, it's about $3 a day, yes? $3 and change?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's called reducing to the ridiculous. And when you say to somebody, you're looking at $3. And the difference here is that you might lose it over $3 a day. So they might meet you halfway, let's say. So you need to build value on the house. So if they say, well, we'll come up to $490, right? Remember, you built value, you said it'd be a shame for you to lose it over $3 a day. Right, so you liked the garage, didn't you? You said the basement was amazing. And we looked at 4 other properties. So this is your time to, you know, really put it all together and say, you pick the best one. So would it be a shame to not get it and go back and find out the only other ones available is one of those other 4? And maybe they won't come down at all. And one of them was over 500. So they say, well, we'll go to 490. So then you split the difference and reduce to the ridiculous again. So if you did a buyer cost sheet at 490, the difference is $50. Divide $50 by 30 days in a month.
It's a dollar.
Now you're down to $1 and change, right? Yeah, $1 and something. Isn't that right? And then you'd say to him again, it just would be a real shame to lose it over that. Well, I'm not going to go up any higher than 490. Okay, well if that doesn't work, then you want to ask them, what can you give back to the seller in the offer? What could they give back? What do you think? Anything?
What?
Well, they could give back the appliances maybe. Anything else you can think of? No? Well, maybe they could give the sellers their closing date. That's when you can say Terry. I say close.
Yeah.
He's saying it on the other ones, but. So, I had that, I'm coaching a lady in North Vancouver. She said, there's a counter and this and that, and then there was a counter where went to the buyer's date, and then they didn't want to come up much, so they came up a little bit, but changed it to the seller's date, and the seller accepted it. So it's not always about the money, it could be the date.
Yeah.
So you're 10 grand off, maybe you say to them, okay, we don't need the freezer, and they can keep the stainless steel fridge, we'll get our own, and we'll give you your date. Maybe that'll help them get it for $490, would you agree?
Yeah.
Is there anything else they could put in there to change the offer? Maybe give the offer with no conditions. Just watch out for the home inspection. Make sure you get the amendment or the term that's added that the buyers were notified about the benefits of doing a home inspection and had declined, and they're taking the property as is. Sounds good? To cover your butt. So remember that. And you know, in the field, a lot of people say, as is doesn't mean this and that. You go talk to a couple of judges, and I've seen people in real estate court, that means something to a judge. You know, the conditions, and you did it, and this and that, and, you know, just, anybody ever been to real estate court yet? I have. And you will, at some point, you'll do enough deals, and all of a sudden, what? I got to appear? Oh, that's just wrong. Because it's just the way it is when you get lots of volume. Nothing to worry about, we have insurance for that anyways, I guess. Not that you want to use it, but do you know we have insurance for that, and what's it called?
REITs.
Yeah, and what's the other insurance we have? Yeah.
Automation.
So what's that one for? Actually, the second one is for what I just talked about. What's the first one for? Because they're 2 different insurances,
That's a pool insurance.
you know? And there's, what if somebody slips and hits their head on the sidewalk of one of your listings? Who covers that? You? Which one? So, you know, make sure you know your stuff, okay? So many benefits to hire a realtor, hey? You know? Oh no, I'm gonna sell privately and not to shovel my walks. So, what else can you give? Or what could you do? Maybe give a larger what?
Deposit.
Yeah. What would be a normal deposit in your area here? If you got an offer, what would be the minimum you should put on an offer?
10.
I would say 10 now. Yeah, 10 minimum. Somebody wants to look really serious? What would 20 would look good?
20,
Yes.
25.
Yeah.
25.
25. Yeah, that's good. If somebody's paying cash, what would be a good deposit to show that they definitely are paying cash, even if you don't have a bank statement? 50, 80.
Yeah, 50,
Yeah.
80,000.
You know, on the coast where I teach, up and down California, up to Vancouver, some of the deposits are easily 80 to 100 grand with people that are getting financing.
If it is cash,
Easy.
then put 20%.
Hey?
If it is a cash, then at least 20%.
Yeah, even half. I mean, it's not, no risk,
Yeah.
right? You're paying cash, 50%, whatever, and just you're paid for half the house, whatever. Anyways, you get the point. You want to make it, you know, you either come up in price, or if you want to come down a little bit, you should give something back. Maybe that'll help, okay? All right? So once you write the offer, you need to learn how to remove buyer's remorse. Because see, a lot of people think once you write an offer, they bought a house. Did they buy a house?
No.
Are they trying to buy a house though?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're trying to buy a house. So that's cool. But some people can get overwhelmed, almost to the point of freaking out. Like, they write the offer, and then you're gonna go present or send it to the other realtor so he can present, or she, and they go home, and all they're doing is trying to find a way to get out of this scary situation. They're overwhelmed. So you gotta let them know that they haven't bought a house yet. In fact, what are some steps that have to occur before they actually buy the house? Because we're trying to just get them to keep on hoping they get it. So if there's conditions, now if they paid cash and there's no conditions, there's only one step before they bought it. The other party has to accept the offer. As soon as it's accepted, they can't back out or they lose their deposit. It's just the way it is. Okay. Now I know there's some rules that might be changing on the coast. It's a 7-day thing they're talking about. Let's not get into that right now, okay? So if there's conditions, there's still another step before they bought the place. The conditions have to be waived, yes?
Yes.
Right? So let them know. Just say, keep your fingers crossed. Can you guys do this? It's just a thing. Just keep your fingers crossed, because right now we're trying to get them to accept the offer, and we have conditions to be removed. If everything goes good, you should get the place. So keep your fingers crossed. And you keep them what?
Cross.
Hoping.
Hoping.
Keep them hoping. Exactly, right? So now what you have to do is you need to call the other realtor. I want to tell you that the best way to present an offer is for you to call the listing agent and tell them you have a buyer offer and ask them when you can present. So if it's not your listing, I'm recommending you still try to do it in person. If you don't want to, then call the other realtor and email him the offer, or her, and go over it with them on the phone. Can you do that?
Yeah.
But hopefully he will present it in person. It's always better in person. Why is it better in person? 3 things. First of all, it actually saves you time even though you're driving over there, because you put the deal together faster. Isn't that crazy? You're driving and you're walking in, and when you're done you'll go, I saved time, instead of just emailing it.
That's true.
But less deals fall apart as well. Plus, if it is your seller, you'll get way more referrals, because the personal touch gets them to like you more, trust you more, think about you more, all that stuff. So please, do everything in person if you can. Now, remember, if it's not your listing, the listing agent, in the listing agreement, the seller has the right to say that they don't want to communicate with any other realtors, even if the buyer agent wants to come. They can say they don't want them to, and you have to send it to the selling agent anyways, okay? So most of the time you'll email it to the listing agent, but if it's your own listing, can you guys present them in person? Do that.
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yes.
If you can, give the person a high five beside you and say, I can do that, and go like
I
that.
can do
okay?
that, I can do that.
All right? So just, let's get real estate back to what we've lost over the last 15 years of technology. Get back out in person. You'll get more referrals. More referrals. So never present your offer, though, in front of friends or family. Why do you think that's important? So you call them up, you say, when can I come over? They say 7 o'clock. You get there, and Uncle George is here, and crazy Uncle Nick, and Auntie Sue, and a bunch of nephews and everything. It's like,